Hi, I'm Sarah. Today I'm going to read you the story of Leslie, which is titled like this: Mom handed me their new will, everything will go to Mark and his kids. You won't get a single cent. I smiled, then don't expect a single cent from me. I left and did what I should have done a long time ago. Then their lives turned. Well, let's go. My name is Leslie, and I'm 36 years old. I work for this huge international trading company as head of the VIP client department. Yeah, I know it sounds fancy, but basically I deal with the big fish, the clients who drop serious money with us. And let me tell you, they pay me well for it. Real well. I didn't just stumble into this job either. I busted my ass for years to get here. College, then more college, then working 60-hour weeks climbing that corporate ladder one rung at a time. Now I've got my own house in a nice neighborhood, a Mercedes that purrs like a kitten, and a bank account that would make most people's eyes water. By any normal person's standards, I've got it made. But here's the thing, my parents don't see it that way, not even close. Every single time I visit them, it's the same song and dance. Leslie, when are you going to settle down? Leslie, you're not getting any younger. Leslie, don't you want children? It's like they can't see past the fact that I don't have a ring on my finger. They love throwing my older brother Mark in my face. Mark's 38, married Sarah right after college, and they've got 4 kids, Tommy who's 15, Jake who's 13, little Emma who's 9, and baby Lily who's 6. My parents worship those kids. I swear, they light up like Christmas trees whenever Mark brings them over. And don't get me started on Sarah, Mark's wife. She's got this way of tilting her head and giving me this pitying smile whenever we're all together. You know, Leslie, she'll say in this sweet voice that makes my teeth itch, I have this cousin who's single. He's got a good job, really nice guy. I could introduce you to. I always smile back and say something like, that's so sweet of you to think of me, but I'm really focused on my career right now. What I want to say is, mind your own damn business, but I was raised better than that. The funny thing is, while they're all sitting there judging my life choices, they sure don't mind taking my money. And boy, do they take it. It started about 3 years ago when Dad called me up, sounding all stressed out. Leslie, honey, we're having some trouble with the mortgage payments. Your mom's been having health issues, and I had to take time off work. Of course I said yes, I mean, they're my parents, right? So I started making their mortgage payments, all of them. Every month for 3 years. But it didn't stop there. Oh no, that would be too simple. Next thing I know, I'm paying their electric bill, their gas bill, their water bill. Then Dad mentions how slow their internet is, so I get them hooked up with the premium package. Then Mom starts talking about how she saw this smart home thing on TV, and wouldn't it be nice if she could just tell the microwave to start heating up dinner? So I bought them all new appliances, the works. Smart refrigerator, smart dishwasher, smart microwave, smart washer and dryer. The whole house is connected now. They can control everything with their voices. Mom loves showing it off to her friends. Watch this, she'll say, and then call out microwave, heat up my coffee. And when it beeps, all her friends go ooh and ah like she's some kind of magician. What they don't tell their friends is who paid for all of it. That part never seems to come up. And then there's Mark. He needed help with his car loan, so guess whose name is on the paperwork? Mine. I also added him and my parents to my car insurance because family should look out for each other. The kids needed money for their activities, soccer, piano lessons, summer camp. Who do you think pays for that? And when the whole family wants to go on vacation, well, good old Aunt Leslie covers the hotel and plane tickets. I tell myself it's fine, I can afford it, and family is family. But sometimes I lie awake at night trying to remember the last time any of them said thank you. I mean really said it, not just a quick thanks before asking for the next thing. I can't remember a single time. But that's just how they are, I guess. They're not big on thank yous. Last month, I made the final mortgage payment on their house. 3 years of payments, and it was finally done. The house was theirs, free and clear. I called Mom to tell her the good news. "Mom, I just made the last payment on your mortgage, the house is all yours now." She squealed like a teenager, "Oh Leslie, that's wonderful, we have to celebrate. I'll cook all your favorite dishes. Come over Saturday, Mark and Sarah are coming too. It'll be perfect timing." I showed up at my parents' house around 6, carrying a bottle of wine. The smell of Mom's pot roast hit me as soon as I walked through the door, and for a second I almost forgot about all the family drama. Mark's car was already in the driveway, so I knew they'd beaten me there. I walked into the dining room and there they all were, Mark looking smug as usual, Sarah with that fake smile plastered on her face, and the 4 kids arguing over who got to sit where. Dad carved the roast while Mom bustled around, making sure everyone had enough of everything. She'd really gone all out: pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, her famous dinner rolls, and apple pie for dessert. It was like Thanksgiving in April. "So," Dad said, settling into his chair, "this is a special day. Our house is finally ours." "Thanks to Leslie," Mark said, but there was something weird in his voice. Like he was reading from a script. "Yes," Mom said, glancing at Dad, "thanks to Leslie." The kids were too busy eating to pay attention to the adults, but I noticed Mark and Sarah exchanging looks. They kept doing it throughout dinner, like they were having some kind of silent conversation. After we finished eating, Mom got up to clear the plates. "Before we have dessert," she said, "your father and I have something we want to tell everyone." She walked over to the sideboard and picked up a manila folder. My stomach dropped. Nothing good ever came from manila folders at family dinners. "What's going on?" I asked, but Mom just smiled and sat back down. "Well," she said, opening the folder, "your father and I went to see Mr. Peterson at his law office last week." Mr. Peterson was the family lawyer. He'd handled my parents' wills years ago, back when I was in college. "We decided it was time to update our will," Dad said. "You know, make sure everything is in order." I looked around the table. The kids were still eating, completely oblivious. Mark and Sarah were sitting perfectly still, watching my parents like they were at a movie theater. "We've been thinking a lot about the future," Mom continued, "and what's best for the family." She pulled out a document and set it on the table. I could see the lawyer's letterhead from where I was sitting. "We've decided," she said, looking straight at me, "that when we pass away, everything we have, the house, our savings, everything, will go to Mark and his children." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I sat there staring at her, waiting for the part where she mentioned me. But she just kept talking. "We know you're doing well for yourself, Leslie. You've got your career, your house, your savings. You don't need anything from us. And Mark has 4 children to think about," Dad added. "College funds, weddings, all those expenses. It just makes sense." I finally found my voice. "Wait, what? You're cutting me out of the will completely?" Mom didn't even flinch. "We're not cutting you out, honey. We're just being practical. You don't have children to provide for. You don't need the money." But I started, then stopped. My brain was trying to process what was happening. "Did you do this on purpose? Wait until after I paid off your mortgage?" The question hung in the air like a bad smell. Mom and Dad looked at each other, but neither of them looked embarrassed or ashamed. If anything, Mom looked annoyed that I was making a big deal out of it. "Leslie," she said in that patient voice she used when I was a kid and having a tantrum, "you need to understand that family means helping each other. You're in a position to help, so you help. That's what family does. But you're literally telling me that I'm not getting anything when you die because I already have money. Money that I earned, money that I used to help you." Sarah cleared her throat. "Leslie, I think you're overreacting. Your parents are just trying to be fair." I turned to look at her. She had this smug expression on her face, like she'd just won something. "Fair?" I said. "How is this fair?" "Well," Sarah said, adjusting her position in her chair, "Mark and I have been struggling financially. We've got 4 kids, and you know how expensive everything is these days. You're single, no kids, making good money. You don't really need an inheritance. Plus, Mark added, you've always been the successful one. You've got your fancy job, your nice house. We're just trying to make ends meet. I felt something hot rising in my chest. Are you kidding me right now? I've been paying your mortgage for 3 years. Leslie, Mom said, I think you need to calm down. This is supposed to be a celebration. I stood up from the table. No, I'm not going to calm down, this is unbelievable. I've been financially supporting all of you for years, and now you're telling me that I'm not worth including in your will because I'm too successful? You're being dramatic, Sarah said. Maybe you should talk to someone. A therapist or something. This level of anger isn't healthy. I stared at her. You want to talk about healthy? If I'm such a terrible person who doesn't deserve to be in your will, why do you all keep taking my money? The table went dead silent. Mark looked down at his plate. Sarah's face turned red. Mom and Dad just stared at me. I looked around the table at all of them. My family, the people I'd been supporting for years. The people who'd just told me I wasn't worth their inheritance because I was too successful. You know what? I said. I'm going to remember this, all of it. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear Mom calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I walked out of that house and slammed the door as hard as I could. The drive home was a blur. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and I kept replaying the conversation in my head. They'd planned this. They'd waited until I paid off their mortgage, then dropped this bomb on me. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch, staring at the wall. I felt angry and hurt and stupid all at the same time. How had I not seen this coming? But mostly, I felt done, just completely done with all of them. I woke up the next morning with a headache and a bad taste in my mouth. The wine hadn't helped, and neither had the 3 hours I'd spent lying in bed replaying every word from dinner. But something had changed overnight. The hurt was still there, but it was getting pushed aside by something else. Something that felt a lot like determination. I wasn't going to just take this lying down. I called my lawyer first thing Monday morning. David Morrison had handled my house purchase and set up my will, so I figured he'd know about this kind of thing. Leslie, he said when I explained the situation, I'm sorry this happened to you. Family disputes over money are never easy. But is there anything I can do? I mean, I paid their mortgage for 3 years. Doesn't that count for something? David was quiet for a minute. The problem is, you weren't a co-borrower on the mortgage. Your name isn't on any of the paperwork. Legally, you were just making voluntary payments on someone else's debt. My heart sank. So I'm screwed? Not necessarily. Think about it this way, you've been supporting them financially in multiple ways, right? What if you just stopped? I'm just saying, if someone told me I wasn't worth including in their will, I might reconsider how generous I was being with my money. A slow smile spread across my face. David, you're a genius. I hung up the phone and pulled out my laptop. Time to make some calls. First, I called Comcast. Hi, I need to cancel the internet service at 428 Maple Street. Can I ask why you're canceling? I'm not paying for it anymore. Next, I called Smart Home Solutions. I need to cancel the service contract for 428 Maple Street. Ma'am, if you cancel the contract, none of the appliances will work. They're all connected to our system. I understand, cancel it. The customer service rep tried to talk me out of it, but I was done. My parents wanted to act like I didn't matter. Fine, let them see how much I didn't matter. Then I called Toyota Financial Services. I need to discuss the loan for the 2022 Camry. How can I help you? I want to return the car. I'm not making any more payments. Ma'am, are you sure? You'll need to arrange for the vehicle to be picked up. Schedule it, I don't care when. I went through my bank account and canceled every automatic payment that had anything to do with my family. The kids' soccer fees, piano lessons, summer camp deposits, all of it. Gone. Then I called my insurance company. I need to remove some people from my policy. Who would you like to remove? Mark Thompson, Linda Thompson, and Robert Thompson. That's quite a few people. Can I ask why? They're not my problem anymore. It took me about 2 hours to undo 3 years of financial support. With each phone call, I felt lighter. Like I was shedding weight I didn't even know I was carrying. The next morning, my phone started ringing. I was at work, trying to focus on a presentation. When I saw Mom's name on the screen, I hit decline. She called back immediately, decline again. Then Dad called, decline. Then Mark, decline. By lunch, I had 17 missed calls. That's when the text started. Mom, Leslie, nothing is working in the house. The internet is down and all the appliances stopped working. Call me back. Dad, what did you do? The TV won't turn on and the dishwasher is dead. Mark, they came and took my car. They took my car. Call me back right now. Sarah, this is childish. Your parents are elderly and you're acting like a spoiled brat. I deleted every single text without responding. Let them figure it out. That evening, I was home making dinner when my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw all 4 of them standing on my porch: Mom, Dad, Mark, and Sarah. They looked pissed. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. What do you want? Mom pushed past me into the house. We need to talk. I don't think we do. Leslie, Dad said, following Mom inside, this has gone too far. Your mother can't even cook dinner. None of the appliances work. The repairman came out, Mom said, and I could see tears in her eyes. He said we need to replace everything, all of it. Do you know how much that's going to cost? Not my problem, I said. Mark stepped forward. Leslie, I need my car back. I have to get to work. Should have thought of that before you decided I wasn't worth including in the will. Sarah crossed her arms. This is exactly what I was talking about. You're being vindictive and cruel. Your parents are suffering because of your tantrum. My tantrum? I felt that familiar heat rising in my chest. You want to talk about suffering? I've been paying for all of your lives for 3 years. And what did I get for it? A big fat nothing in the will and a lecture about how I need to find a husband. We never asked you to pay for everything, Mom said. Bullshit, every time you called me, it was about money. The mortgage, the utilities, the internet, the appliances. And every time I said yes. Because I thought you were grateful. Because I thought I was helping my family. You were helping your family, Dad said. That's what family does. No, I said, walking to my front door and opening it. That's what ATMs do, and I'm done being your ATM. Leslie, please, Mom said, we can work this out. Maybe we can change the will. Maybe? I laughed. You think maybe is good enough? You waited until I paid off your mortgage to screw me over, and now you want to negotiate? It's not like that, Mark said. It's exactly like that. You're all leeches. You've been sucking money out of me for years, and the second I'm not useful anymore, you cut me loose. That's not true, Sarah said. We appreciate everything you've done. Really, when? When did you appreciate it? Because I can't remember a single thank you from any of you. They all stood there looking at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had, maybe I'd finally lost it, and this was what sanity felt like. Get out, I said, all of you. Get out of my house and don't come back. You made it clear that I'm not getting a cent from you when you die. Well, guess what? You're not getting a cent from me while you're alive. I stood there holding the door open until they finally left. Mark was the last one out, and he turned around like he wanted to say something. Don't, I said, just don't. I slammed the door behind them and locked it. Then I poured myself a glass of wine and sat down at my kitchen table. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't worried about anyone else's bills. I wasn't stressed about mortgage payments or utility bills or car loans. I was free. The first few weeks after cutting them off were blissfully quiet. I threw myself into work with renewed energy. Without the constant stress of managing everyone else's finances, I could actually focus on my job. I landed 2 new major clients and got praise from my boss for my performance. My bank account started growing again instead of being constantly drained. But the silence from my family didn't last forever. About a month after our confrontation, my cousin Rachel called me. Rachel was my mom's sister's daughter, and she'd always been the family gossip. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Leslie," she said, "I heard about what happened with your parents. Your mom called my mom crying. She said you cut off their internet and broke all their appliances, and that Mark's car got repossessed." I almost laughed. "Is that what she told you?" "She said you were being vindictive because they didn't put you in their will." "But Leslie, there has to be more to it than that." Rachel was fishing for information, but I decided to give her the whole story. Why not? If my parents were going to spread their version around the family, I might as well tell the truth. "Rachel, I paid their mortgage for 3 years. Every month, without fail. I paid their utilities, bought them all new appliances, paid for Mark's car, his insurance, his kids' activities. I basically supported the entire family financially." "Wait, your mom never mentioned any of that." "Of course she didn't. They took my money for years, then the minute I finished paying off their mortgage, they announced they were cutting me out of the will because I was too successful to need an inheritance." Rachel was quiet for a long moment. "Holy shit, Leslie, that's messed up." "Yeah, it is, so I stopped paying for everything. If I'm not worth including in their will, then I'm not worth supporting financially." "Good for you," Rachel said. "I can't believe they did that to you." Word spread fast through the family network. Over the next few weeks, I heard through various relatives about the fallout from my decision. My parents had to completely gut their kitchen. Without the smart home system, all their fancy appliances were useless. They had to buy the cheapest replacements they could find, and even then, they couldn't afford to renovate the whole kitchen. Half of it was still torn up because they ran out of money. My dad, who hadn't worked in over a year, had to get a job at the hardware store. At 64 years old, he was back to working retail, lifting boxes, and dealing with customers. Mom complained to everyone who would listen about how embarrassing it was. Mark was struggling too. He'd bought some beat-up old Honda that was constantly breaking down. The kids had to quit their soccer teams and piano lessons because Mark and Sarah couldn't afford them anymore. Sarah had to get a part-time job at Target to help make ends meet. The whole family was talking about Mark and Sarah maybe moving in with my parents to save money on rent. 4 kids in that little house with their grandparents? Good luck with that. My cousin Janet called me one day, laughing. "Leslie, you should have seen your mom at the grocery store yesterday. She was complaining to Mrs. Henderson about how ungrateful you are, and Mrs. Henderson just looked at her and said, 'Well, Linda, if my daughter had been paying my mortgage for 3 years, I think I'd be pretty grateful.'" What did Mom say to that? She turned red and walked away. I think word is getting around about what really happened. I felt a little bad about that. I didn't want to humiliate my parents, but I also wasn't going to let them paint me as the villain in this story. A few months later, I ran into Mark at the grocery store. He looked tired, older somehow. His clothes were wrinkled, and he needed a haircut. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Hey yourself." We stood there for a moment, not sure what to say. Finally, he spoke up. "The kids ask about you sometimes. They don't understand why you don't come around anymore. Maybe you should explain it to them." He looked down at his cart, which was full of generic brands and discount items. "Leslie, I know we messed up. Mom and Dad, they didn't handle it right. But cutting us off completely, that's pretty harsh." I stared at him. "You know what's harsh, Mark? Taking someone's money for years and then telling them they're not worth including in your will, that's harsh." He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something else, but I pushed my cart past him and walked away. I didn't have anything else to say to him. 6 months after cutting them off, I was doing better than I had in years. My stress levels were down, my bank account was up, and I was actually enjoying my life again. I'd started dating someone I met through work, a nice guy named David who didn't need me to pay his bills or fix his problems. I bought myself a new car, a beautiful red Audi convertible. I took a vacation to Italy, something I'd been putting off for years because I was always worried about having enough money for my family's emergencies. The best part was not having to worry about anyone else's problems. No more late-night calls about broken appliances or overdue bills. No more stress about whether I could afford to help with some new crisis. My money was my own again. I heard through the grapevine that my parents were still struggling. Dad's job at the hardware store wasn't paying enough to cover all their expenses, and they were talking about selling the house and moving to a smaller apartment. The house I'd paid off for them. Did I feel bad about it? Sometimes. They were my parents, after all. But then I remembered that dinner, the way they'd looked at me when they announced I was getting nothing in the will. The way they'd justified it by saying I was too successful, too well off, too single to deserve anything. I remembered years of taking my money without a single thank you. Years of judging my life choices while living off my success. Years of treating me like an ATM instead of a daughter. No, I didn't feel bad, I felt free. The only thing I regretted was not doing it sooner. I should have cut them off the first time they took my money without showing any gratitude. I should have realized that they saw me as a resource, not a person. But I knew better now, and I was never going back to being anyone's ATM again. My money, my life, my rules, finally.